It is What's the Score here on the Blue Room, an hour before kick-off as Everton gear up to face Leicester City in the Premier League. Late substitution here as it's Rob Vera who joins me tonight, not Les Roberts. Rob, I've got the team. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go for it. I'm looking at it.
You're looking at it, so people who are listening to this, Pickford is in goal, Jason Holgate, Ben Godfrey, Michael Keane and Yerry Mina all start. Luca Dean, Rodriguez, Gomez, Davis, Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. No place in the squad for Cenk Tosun again. Alex Iwobi, Gylfi Sigurdsson on the bench, along with Tyler Onyango, who makes the bench as well. So I'm not entirely sure Everton are going to be lining up there, Rob, but it appears as though maybe a three-man defence with Holgate at right wing-back and Luca Dean at left wing-back.
Yeah, maybe. It wouldn't, I guess, shock me if he, I kind of expected to see Iwobi in the side. I'm kind of wondering, is he putting Dean on the left wing again and Richarlison on the right? I don't know, or is he putting one of Holgate or Godfrey in midfield? Like I'm not totally sure.
Or does he play Rodriguez one side, Luca Dean the other side in midfield in a 4-4-2 with Richarlison and Dom front together?
Yeah, I guess it could go a lot of ways. It's really interesting because this is probably this is one of the more anticipated team news announcements in a while, mainly because of the returning guys to the squad, but also obviously because of the enormity of the game itself. But I think I've been curious for a while now with the results that we were getting in the performance defensively, what the return of Luca Dean was going to mean to the entire squad. I will say this. This is just my opinion. We are a back four team. I know that maybe we have to revert to a back three at times, but I don't know that gets the most strength necessarily out of Keane and Mina as a pairing. But again, it'll be interesting to see how they do it. I would have thought if they were going to go the wing back approach that you would have a Iwobi in there maybe, or do what?
Yeah. Or Coleman maybe. He can get up and down, provide more of an attacking threat.
Yeah.
I think what it probably is going to be, the more I look at it, is 4-4-1-1. With James as the one behind, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison on the right, Luca Dean on the left.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of feels like what it might be.
And then
but I think the play.
And then keep Holgate at right back, Keane and Mina, and then you're talking Godfrey at left, and just keeping that same back four. Yeah.
I don't think there's any real great need to change that back four, is there? Because it's done really well.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, just given how dominant that group seems to be defensively, you have that reality combined with the fact that you really genuinely recognize Luca Dean as one of the best left backs in Europe. But I do think that I do think positions matter, but I do find that with examples like, James or even Luca Dean to a degree. I think the discussion with Ben Godfrey, I know Patty had a piece that came out today in The Athletic about Godfrey's versatility. I'm just beginning to be more of the opinion that the sport and the way in which the fluidity of the game, especially with how you might have three at the back going forward and four at the back defensively, there's so much fluidity now that I think it's more incumbent upon you to just put the best players out there and, to essentially, I'm just saying that positions are informative, but they can't be completely rigid constructs to the point at which you say, for instance, well, Ben Godfrey can only be this for us, or Luca Dean can only be this for us. I mean, I want Luca Dean out there regardless of what position he's playing. I mean, obviously he's not going to play every position, but you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't be a bad thing if you have Godfrey at left back and you have Dean at left wing just to get that playmaking out there. But I think it'll be interesting to see how they line up, especially given Leicester's I think we can all admit their advantage in midfield tonight. It'll be really interesting without Vardy to see how they ultimately attack us. But I'd put that back four of Holgate, Godfrey, Keane, and Mina right now up against any attack in the league. They've just been suffocating defensively.
Yeah, I think that's where we need to sort of back these lads, don't we, and sort of say they have been fantastic. That back four obviously played against Leicester in December in a game which the manager described as our best performance of the season. So perhaps no surprise that he's gone like that. But yeah, I just keep looking at it and thinking there's probably about 5 or 6 different ways they could line up there with different players in different positions. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Just on Leicester's team, Rob as well has quickly brought that up there for people who've not seen there. There's a Schmeichel in goal. Castagna and Justin are the full-backs, Fofana and Evans centre-back, and Ndidi, Tielemans, Maddison in midfield, Albrighton on one flank, Barnes on the other, Perez is leading the line for them ahead of Iheanacho. I think the big threat there, as you mentioned there, is midfield. There's a nice balance to that three, isn't there, of Ndidi, Tielemans and Maddison. It feels like they've got a bit of everything in there.
Yeah, I mean, they've got such a talented group there. A little surprised to not see Iheanacho maybe start, but I mean, look, I've always thought, just generally speaking, Ayoze Perez is a skillful, dangerous player. I think what will be interesting to see is given what we're missing and the way that we're potentially lining up defensively. I think there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not we almost play this home game in conventionally more of a road fashion in terms of essentially letting them have the ball and breaking a little bit, but. It's interesting because I know that formula worked really well when we played them at the King Power. It'd be interesting when you add James Rodriguez into that mix to see, what that balance is, because I don't expect us to just to be some sort of 80-20 possession sort of game necessarily. But I think that'll be interesting. Madison's just such a fantastic player. I rate him so highly. And, I think that's going to be a real test tonight. I will say too, that looking at our 11, I did kind of wonder if you're going to be starting Gomes and Davies, which I actually kind of expected Sigurdsson to start this, but if you're going to start those two, who's the guy protecting the back four in a scenario like that? I mean, again, maybe the idea is, if let's say Luka Dean is the left back, that maybe you are moving Holgate or Godfrey into one of those positions. But I tend to kind of agree with you. It might just be more of a 4-4-2, and you hope to just kind of solve some of that with bodies in general. But
I think in a funny sort of way, I think that Perez is going to drop off the front, isn't he, and play in those little spaces. He's not going to run in behind like Vardy. And
right,
in a funny sort of way, that might be a little bit more of a worry for us tonight, because if we were just sitting deep and limiting the space for Vardy, it feels like we've got the defence that can cope with that. Mm-hmm. But maybe tonight we don't have the midfield that can necessarily cope with intelligent movements into those little spaces in between the lines, like Maddison does, like Perez does. If we had Alan and Decore playing, I think we'll be well adept to cope with that. But Gomez has got his strengths, Tom Davies has got his strengths, but being that screening player in front of the back four isn't really what either of them are good at, is it?
Right. No, it's not. I think too that it is definitely going to be an interesting kind of style exercise, if you will, just because and we talk about this all the time, that some of the best sides in the league really develop a particular type of identity centered around the way that they play. I mean, Leicester are obviously, which a lot of it obviously is contingent to a degree on a striker like Vardy, who plays the way that he does. They are the ultimate counter-attacking side. And so having Perez in there, it doesn't mean that they won't be, but part of me wonders if part of me wonders whether you almost have two sides here that want to play the same way. And then it'll just kind of come out then at points to individual performances or performers and who can create moments. I would be remiss, of course, if I didn't mention the thing that everyone has mentioned a bunch leading up to this, which is the susceptibility that Leicester have at set pieces defensively.
Yeah.
It used to be us talking about our own issues with that, and we don't really hear about that much anymore. It's nice, but
Yeah.
I kind of wondered, and I was probably outsmarting myself on Sunday by thinking, well, if they sit Keane on Sunday, they bring him back in maybe because of all the matches this week. Do you consider rotating out Yerry Mina to kind of rotate some from a rest standpoint. But then I started thinking to myself, well, that's one, outthinking myself. Two, they've developed a really good partnership. And three, Keane and Mina have been, especially of late, really good on set pieces in terms of presenting that threat. Whether they score or not almost is less of an issue less of a concern than the threat, because I think it will open up potentially others to get in and take advantage of that. I think Richarlison, for me, I look at, and I hope I'm not saying this too much lately, but he got his goal on Sunday. Felt like he could have had maybe one or two more. I think this is a big game for him tonight. I mean, this is definitely one of those games where I think the question was asked of, who does Carlo really trust? I heard that conversation that you guys had on Subscribers Weekly. I thought that was really good. And I think Richarlison obviously is a player that must start, but these are the types of games that not only define the season for Everton collectively, but I think these are the types of games where you've simply got to have a performance from your best players. And that means not just the same kind of normal solidity defensively, but that really frankly means that guys like Richarlison, James, Calvert-Lewin, I mean, they've got to have big games. Your best players have to play well to win. I don't think Everton are yet deep enough in terms of talent yet to be able to say that they can have two or three of their primary players be off and still get a win. So I think that we're going to have to see something big. And I think this is an opportunity for Richarlison to really step up tonight.
Yeah, he's got a great record against these, hasn't he, as well? Done very well to King Power in particular, scored against them in the last game at Goodison. And I'm just thinking there, Rob, probably a nice way to finish off on a positive point of view. I'm pretty sure, I'm going to put this on Twitter, and someone will tell me I'm wrong about this in a bit, but I'm pretty sure that this is only the second time since the Merseyside derby that we've had Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, James Rodriguez and Luca Dean on the pitch at the same time. And you think about the creativity. They are two best creators and our two best goal scorers. And you think about the way in which those players played in the early parts of the season. The damage they did to opposition teams. Everton obviously lost a bit of their edge after that Merseyside derby because Richarlison was injured and Luca Dean was suspended, then injured again. James was injured. Dom has been injured as well. But I think the only time since that derby they've all started a game together was Fulham away. And in the first half of that game, we looked pretty tidy going forward as well, to be fair. So yeah, I think it's really exciting that we've got our two best goal scorers on the pitch and our two best creative players on the pitch all together at the same time.
Boy, Matt, I don't think that point can be underscored enough. When you say it, it's sort of like, oh yeah, of course. But I think that really speaks to two things. One, just how massive December was for the fortunes of this club as it pertains to this particular season, because for us to go on the run that we did, missing such key contributors, especially given the sort of dynamic and flair that we had in an attacking sense early in the season, I think is really huge. But two, I think that what you're talking about there too, in terms of having, two excellent creators, two, really talented goal scorers, all playing together for the first time, I think it does at least bring up the idea that the ceiling for this thing that we always keep talking about is actually higher than I think any of us may fully realize. And obviously you would have liked to have had that group playing together a little bit more headed into this game. But the bottom line is that everything is right in front of Everton, especially with the games in hand. That's again part of why this week is so massive for Everton in regards to those two games in hand, and obviously because of Leicester's proximity to them in the table. But yeah, having that kind of attack, it does given all of Leicester, the caveats about Leicester and their quality. I do think that they can be had a little bit defensively, especially quality on, as we talked about, set pieces, but also I would think depending on where you decide to deploy Dean, and how much he is integrated into the attack, if he's on the left wing side, or if even if he's at left back, I do think it does present some additional dimensions. And this is kind of a somewhat minor point, but I'm also a big fan against a team with susceptibility from set pieces of having two really good set piece takers on the pitch at the same time. It's great. It's what a luxury Everton have to be able to rest.
Four defenders as well, Rob. Four centre backs who can attack the ball. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, excellent point too. That you have, but to be able to bench Sigurdsson and still have set piece quality in Hamas and Luka Dean is incredible. And it does feel like Hamas. And again, I know the caveat of who we played on Sunday. In terms of the discussion, but. James Rodriguez looks like he can put that ball from the corner, from really anywhere on the pitch, anywhere he wants it. And I think that the rapport he's developing with those targets on set pieces is going to continue to be a weapon. So it's really exciting to see what happens tonight.
Yeah, looking forward to it. A kick-off in 45 minutes. Rob, you're back on post-match after the game with Lyndon Lloyd and Mark Mosey. So join us live on YouTube if you want to watch that. Obviously, the podcast will be out as well. But thanks everyone for watching this. Hope you enjoyed